We're making easy and delicious au gratin potatoes that are higher in protein with cottage cheese. I'm sharing my secret for incorporating smooth yet incredible flavor with fresh garlic, sautéed onions, and of course, shredded cheese. And it's all cooked in one skillet without boiling any potatoes. Hello, my name is Nicole Bonilla, and if you love healthier recipes to our favorite foods, then you are in the right place. To make these really easy au gratin potatoes, we're gonna start with 2.5 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes, but you could use any variety that you like. Now I've already gone through and peeled my potatoes, so now it's time to slice them nice and thin. Now you could do this with a knife, but I have found that a mandolin makes it so much easier and quicker. So I'm going to set the thickness to about 1/8 of an inch, and I really like this slicer because it's stainless steel. And I did include a link below if you'd like to check it out. Then I'll just poke into the end of my potato and then run it along the mandolin. And then we have these very uniformly sliced little potatoes. And then we'll just continue until we have all the potatoes sliced. And then I filled my bowl with water so that we can put all of our sliced potatoes back inside the bowl. And soaking them in the water is going to help rinse off excess starch. And now that all of our potatoes are sliced and soaking, we'll go ahead and set them aside. Now to add some amazing flavor to these potatoes, we're going to add some sautéed onions as well as some garlic. So I went ahead and already chopped down about 1/4 of a white onion and 4 cloves of garlic. Now what makes this recipe so easy and convenient is being able to do it all in one skillet. And even better if you have one that has a lid. I really like using my Hexclad pans because they give me the best of both non-stick and cast iron. So I've just turned the heat to medium and I'm just waiting for my pan to get nice and hot. And then I'm just going to pour in 1 tablespoon of some light olive oil. And then I'll tilt my pan to make sure it's evenly coated. And now that I can tell this is nice and warm, we'll go ahead and add in our onions. And then I'll give them a quick stir so they're nice and coated in the oil. And then season with a little bit of salt. And then I'm just going to let these soften for about a minute. Now the onions are starting to soften, I can go ahead and add in the diced garlic. And I'll give that a stir so it can start to bloom. So after just a couple of minutes, our onions are nice and soft and our garlic is just barely starting to toast. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my heat. And then I'll carefully transfer these to a small bowl. Now to make these potatoes higher in protein, we're going to use cottage cheese as our creamy base. But you're probably wondering, what about that curdled texture? But don't worry, because we are going to blend it smooth. Now to blend it smooth, you could use an upright blender or a food processor, or I'm going to use my smoothie cup. So I'm simply going to add 1/2 cup of milk, and you can use any variety that you like. And then I'll add 1 cup of cottage cheese, and I prefer to use the full fat variety because it gives it the most creaminess. Now you're welcome to jot down these ingredients as I go along, or you can click on the link that's in the video description below and that will take you to the full recipe with all the details. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter and a teaspoon of salt. Now you might be wondering about the onions and garlic, but we're going to add those into our blender cup so that they are also blended smooth. Then you get all of this flavor spread throughout all of the potatoes. So I'm just going to add these to my cup. And then I'll take this over to my base and blend it for about 30 seconds to a minute or until it's completely smooth. So now after about 30 seconds on the base, we have this very creamy mixture and the cottage cheese is undetectable. Now these wouldn't be au gratin potatoes without the cheese. And I've shredded up 6 ounces of a mixture of white cheddar cheese as well as mozzarella cheese. But you could use any cheese variety that you like. So now that we have our cheese and our cream, we also want to have our Italian seasoning ready as well as some ground pepper. And then I'm going to take our soaking potatoes over to the sink and drain them in a colander. And then to help remove any excess water, go ahead and just spread out a towel and dump the potatoes out onto the towel and then spread them out. And then I'll start rolling up the towel just like a big sleeping bag. And then we'll give it a gentle squeeze to get rid of any excess water. Now before we layer the potatoes into the pan, I'm going to go ahead and just pour in another tablespoon of light olive oil. And I'll just spread this around and particularly up on the sides of the pan. Now we can unroll our potatoes and start with our first layer. And then we'll just spread these out and make sure to separate them so they're not stuck together. Now if you could use more healthy recipes on a regular basis, I invite you to join my email list. All you have to do is click on the link in the description below, and that is the best way for us to stay connected. And then as soon as we have a solid layer, we'll go ahead and pour in about 1/3 of our cream mixture. I'll just pour that right over the top. And then we can sprinkle in about 1/3 of our cheese, and a few dashes of Italian seasoning, and a couple dashes of pepper. Then we'll repeat with another layer of potatoes. Then we'll pour in another 1/3 of our cream, another 1/3 of our cheese, and our Italian seasoning, and dashes of pepper. Then we'll add our remaining layer of potatoes, Then we'll pour on the rest of our cream and the rest of our cheese. And if you want to shred on just a little more cheese, I won't judge. We'll make sure we spread it out. And then a finally sprinkle of Italian seasoning and dash of pepper. Now this is ready to go into a 400-degree oven. First, we're going to cook it 35 minutes covered, and then we're going to take the cover off and then cook it for an additional 15 minutes or until the cheese on top starts to toast. One of the many things I love about Hexclad pans is that their lids are also oven safe, but you could also use aluminum foil if needed. So I'm just going to put on my lid, but you'll want to be careful and use some mitts if your pan is still hot from sauteing your onions and garlic. So into my oven this goes. Well, here are our potatoes out of the oven and they look and smell incredible. I allowed them to cook with the lid on for 35 minutes and then I took the lid off for 15 minutes and then I did go ahead and set my oven to broil on high and I allowed it to broil for about 3 minutes, which gave the extra toasty finish to the cheese on top. And then you'll want to let this rest on your counter for about 10 minutes for all those juices to soak into the potatoes. But I have a sample here that is ready to enjoy. That seriously tastes incredible. As soon as you bite in, you just get this burst of flavor coming in from those potatoes, and then you get the rich cheesiness that's enhanced by the cottage cheese that you would never know is in there. And then you get that extra flavor coming in from the onions and garlic that is just so smooth and infused throughout the entire bite. And I love that it's made with clean, natural ingredients, which means I'm gonna feel just as good even after I eat it. And I want to thank you for joining me today in my kitchen. I've included a link to this full recipe and it's in the description below. That takes you to my website, gentletummy.com. And I also invite you to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I cannot wait to have you hang out with me again in my kitchen.